In the series Units Succession Wars, we talk about units that are playable with the introductory rules. Today, the Commando. From the Star League era, the Commando has been the primary scout mech of the Lyran Commonwealth, sitting at a light 25 tons. Since there is only one competitor in the 25-ton class, the Mongoose, we need to compare the Commando with the three primary scout mechs of the Succession Wars era. Taking the 20-ton Locust, Stinger and Wasp as a benchmark, the Commando clearly wins when it comes to raw firepower. With an impressive damage potential of up to 25 points, it can even outcompete some heavier mechs. Unfortunately, it has neither the mobility nor the armor to convert this into fighting power. Things look even worse when comparing against the Mongoose. While the Commando still wins in terms of firepower, it lags behind in terms of armor, and the Mongoose has the same mobility as the Locust. There may be days when every dice roll is successful, but such days don't come often, and we prefer to stick to the facts. In terms of probability, the Commando will not be able to consistently beat the Mongoose, because the Mongoose can control the game, with or without winning the initiative. Rough terrain will very likely be the Commando's downfall. Without jump jets, it must either avoid or cross terrain obstacles, costing precious additional movement points when it only has 2 spare movement points to achieve the crucial +3 target movement modifier. If you look at the current Battletech maps, Commando-friendly terrain is a rare find. This means a Commando will often be outmaneuvered by the 3 lighter scout mechs and is therefore heavily dependent on winning the initiative. In addition, the higher mobility of the other scouts gives them the opportunity to escape or avoid the Commando. Stinger and Wasp can easily jump into a wood hex for a +3 target movement modifier, while keeping their distance from the Commando, and the Locust with 3 more movement points to spend can outpace the heavier mech. With only 8 armor points in the center torso and legs, a large laser is enough to penetrate the armor in all other hit locations. The situation is even worse with the 1D and 3A variants, with only 6 armor points on the center torso and legs. One-on-one with other light mechs, this may be sufficient, as the medium laser is usually the main weapon in such battles. In more realistic circumstances, it often falls victim to heavier opponents. Since all variants always store their ammunition in one or sometimes both side torsos, this is its biggest weakness. But let's bring this back to a fair fight and stick to the comparison against the 3 20-ton mechs. The standard Locust and Stinger variants have 1 medium laser and 2 machine guns. But for analysis, we'll treat them as only having 1 medium laser, as the 2 MG's short range make them near useless in a mech-on-mech firefight. The Commando's average to hit number in such battles is an 11. To improve on this, the Commando must reach the short range of its weapons, a maximum distance of 3 hexes, and everything else has to fit into place. The initial situation must allow the approach, you must win the initiative roll, and your opponent must make a mistake in his movement. With 2 players of equal skill, this situation will not occur very often. We therefore assume the following situation. The mechs are in the medium range of their main weapons, so we start with a 4, the gunnery value, and add 2 for medium range. The Commando will run to keep its target movement modifier as high as possible, so another +2, making 8. For all 3 possible opponents, we can assume a +3 target movement modifier. Stinger and Wasp can jump 5 or 6 hexes, while the Locust can spend 5 additional movement points on turns, woods, and other things on its way, and still have a +3. That makes 11, so the chance to hit is less than 10%. On the other hand, it is much more difficult for the Commando to achieve the +3 target movement modifier, as it quickly uses up its 8th and 9th movement point to deal with terrain. Ideally, the Commando's movement path would be 7 hexes straight ahead, with the last one being a heavy wood hex. This ideal situation does exist, but, unfortunately, all kinds of other units also want to enter this heavy wood hex, and some of them are certainly on your side. A battle in which the Commando has the highest priority is exceedingly rare. So, who can he best? The 320-ton mechs Flea, Hornet and Torn are definitely beatable for him. Flea and Torn have the same movement characteristics as the Commando, the Hornet is even slower. The Hornet's 3 jump jets are negligible. With its armament, it is clearly superior to these 3 mechs. Finally, we have the Mercury, which is slightly superior to the Locust and therefore better than the Commando. So, what do you do with the Commando? We now know that it will lose in direct duels with the other light scouts. Fortunately, normal Battletech games are a bit more extensive than one-on-one duels. To find a use for it, let us look at the individual variants on detail. The original series variant, the 1B, has slightly less firepower than the 2D model, but has a little more penetrating power with the large laser. It is therefore well suited to hunting light scouts who try to get into the back of your fire supporters through the flanks. If a player can keep it out of range of enemy heavy mechs, it can even forego movement and increase its hit probability. The greater range of the large laser makes this even easier. It also has its uses on the attack, even if it's just to draw fire away from more valuable units. When using its weapons on the move, it is not advisable to Alpha Strike, as it immediately loses a movement point at 5 overheat. This is something the Commando cannot afford. The 1C variant is hardly worth using. Although the AC2 has a superior range, it doesn't any significant damage. Due to its weak firepower, this variant can advance far, as it is often ignored. However, it remains questionable how much danger it can create in the enemy's rear. From the Fatcom Civil War onwards, it could be turned into a tank destroyer with armor-piercing ammunition, but we are focusing on the succession wars in this series, where special ammunition for autocannons did not yet exist. With the 1D variant, you have a mech that actually poses a threat. With an SRM-6 and a large laser, it can potentially force a piloting skill roll, which should not be underestimated. With 4 overheat, it can risk an Alpha Strike every other turn. However, the 1D will need a hiding place to cool down, and the firepower requires giving up another ton of armor, making it even more of a glass cannon. The standard 2D variant has without question the best weapon mix. With only 2 overheat points from an Alpha Strike on the run, it can easily provide the additional missing damage points needed to trigger a piloting skill roll as a support unit. In addition, the high number of SRMs is a real threat to any mech that has already lost its armor as it hunts for criticals. The 2D is thus what we call a finisher. The same weapons are also the horror of every tank, as the number of hits is more important against tanks than the damage itself. If the tank doesn't have a turret, it's a sitting duck for the Commando 2D. The last variant of the Succession Wars, the 3A, has the highest firepower with 31 possible damage points. To put this in context, the Marauder 3R, which is 3 times heavier, only has 35 possible damage points. However, the Commando 3A loses a ton of precious armor and can only use this firepower safely while being stationary. Although the Flamer has gained potential due to the rule change, for both heat and damage with the same weapon attack, it does not have the hitting power of the other weapons. The fluff text argument that it has too little ammunition for both launchers with only 1 ton does not stand up to the reality of the game. If the Commando 3A fires its 2 SRMs for 7 gaming rounds, then the opponent has either never played a Battletech game in their life or has left the table. With only 48 armor points, armor will run out faster than ammunition. In general, it can be played like the 2D variant, but is more fragile and must be used carefully. If we look at the battle value, it is slightly more expensive than the other mechs mentioned, apart from the Mongoose of course. It therefore often stays in the hangar, because there are cheaper mechs that have better movement characteristics, and players will usually fall back on more resilient mechs for firepower, as they can stay in the battle longer. Let's move on to the last point, quirks. Quirks are special features of a machine that are not covered by the normal design rules. However, they give a mech flavor and can make the difference between two otherwise similar mechs. The Commando has the quirks narrow or low profile and exposed actuators. Narrow or low profile improves its chances of survival in combat. This can make all the difference, especially when on the approach, as an otherwise devastating PPC hit might not penetrate the armor. The exposed actuator's quirk makes it vulnerable to infantry melee attacks, but this problem can easily be solved by keeping your distance. All in all, the Commando is well suited to explaining the Lyran military's disdain of light mechs. In the game, it can stay alive long enough to do some good in large company or greater size battles, because there will almost always be a more dangerous target that is easier to hit. With good timing, the Commando might even make an important contribution to the fight. In smaller lance level fights, you might want to consider another light mech, as it is too easy to take out at the end of the day. You can find out more tips and tricks in a tactics video, which we will produce once this channel hits 5,000 subscribers. I hope you have as much fun playing Battletech as I do. Let us know your thoughts and experiences in the comments. If the information was useful for you, I would appreciate a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching and see you next time.